always forget to do that. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the long side. So this is 11, that's 5.5. And I go fast because I want to be able to finish my demo in time to take a look at what you guys are doing. So if I'm going too fast, you just let me know. Or if you have questions, don't feel free to jump out. Also know that this entire class will be on video and available to you within an hour after class is finished. And then you see I'm lining my, I'm absolutely lining my, my ruler up between the two marks. I'm going to use a different color so that it's easier to see. There we go. Much better. So that that's like the first two folds of the paper right here. So what are the last two folds? The last two folds look like this. Halfway points of each halfway. So half of this half is right here. And then I come over here and I mark the same thing on this side. You're going to find that the grid is a great way. I'm going to do the same thing on all the halves. You're going to find that this can be a very soothing way. And if you feel like you have some drawing experience and you want to try having me talk to you about how to eyeball something correctly, right? How to actually draw it. I'm happy to do that. You don't need to use this grid, but at the very beginning of drawing, one of the things I noticed as I started to learn to draw is that I just had no idea where things really were on the paper. I often drew things too big. Anybody else have this experience? It's very, very common. We don't, and then of course you're just gonna connect your lines across like this. Different piece, or just a little bit. Hang on here. Ugh. I'm looking for something with a better, thinner line. Let's try it. Let's try you. My grid may be many different colors. There we go. As long as you can see it, that's the most important thing. So for those of you who are working with pencil, and you have a ruler, you're going to be doing this with your pencil. I'm doing this with different colored markers so that you guys can see it. So anyway, the point of the grid is that when we're retraining ourselves to draw, we struggle to see things in the shapes that they really are. We tend to make things too big. We tend to want to center them when they're really off to the side. We have all kinds of ideas about a subject that make it difficult for us to draw. So today we're going to talk about, and I'm going to help you. So the grid is the quickest, easiest way. I'm probably not going to use the grid. I'm probably going to try and just eyeball it. So for those who would like to try this without using the grid, you're welcome. So that's the first thing. And as we use this grid, here's the other thing that's going to feel very counterintuitive to you. Your first lines are going to be the outside shape of the thing. We're not actually going to get into, right. Well, let's say we'll go like this. And then we'll add in this group. So your first lines are actually going to be these, right? Does that feel weird? Should feel weird. Actually, let's get rid of this one. Let's make our first lines. I'm going to draw this even clearer. And I'm going to take a picture of this and send it across the WhatsApp thread so you can see it. And I'll do this so that you can see it. I'll draw that for you. We're going to just focus on this right now. We'll make decisions later about what we want to put into our backgrounds. But we're really just going to focus on this group of flowers. So this is a group of red flowers. You don't have to, Osiris, you don't have to use the grid if you don't want to. Don't worry about it. Just try to draw. I will talk you through not using the grid if that's feeling stressful. So don't worry about that. But for the reason for doing this is to think about the relationships of this group of flowers to each other. So they are touching, which means that in a way, they're all one subject. And you need to get this bigger subject out here before you try to get the smaller subject in. So Before we start, I just wanted to talk very briefly about pencil leads. So let's see. I don't know how much you guys know about pencils. I do a lot of these exercises with just the simple HB pencil, like the one you would find in a school classroom, right? So H stands for hard. And B stands for bold, right? Or black. I've actually never been clear on it.
Leah, today I just discovered there is also an F. What is the F?
Yeah, F is like an H. F and H.
Okay.
F stands for fine. H stands for hard. B stands for bold or black. Okay. So as you see these little numbers go up, you're going to find that your HB, which is kind of a balance between the two, is a really nice way to start because it's not too heavy. You haven't, Claire, did you want to ask me something?
No.
Oh, okay. It says I see a note to me that says I haven't, and then it stops.
That was a mistake. Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
My typing is the worst.
I'm so there with you, right? So you'll notice that this is kind of a medium, mild line. If you try to like shade with it, it kind of creates a certain kind of mark. But there's a point to which it doesn't really go very dark. So if you want to, you could then switch over, hang on, to I have all the different, some of your pencils will have things like, okay, so this is a B, right? And it should be, the B, if you'll notice, will be a little bit darker. So sometimes when you're ready to go in and add your darks, so basically the higher, the B is dark. And then if I have, what else do I have here? I have there's an HB. Okay, let's go up to something crazy. Like I've got a 7B. Basically, the higher the number goes with B, the darker it gets, the darker the graphite gets. So here is a 7B. See the difference? So sometimes if you're wanting to get a darker shade, you can switch over to a darker pencil. Notice how this B will look when it's kind of on a lighter pencil with a little bit of H in it. Right? So the higher, if you have a pencil that says 2B or 4B or 6B or 8B, the higher the number, the darker it's going to be, as opposed to the H's. So if you've got something, I know I have it here, hang on. I know I have a 2H. The H's, here's a 2H. The sharpening it for a second here. So this is a 2H or a 2F. The higher the H's or the F goes, the finer the line gets. Can you see that? So it also creates a very different kind of line. So this is a 2H. So there's a 2H. This is an HB. This is a B. And this is a 7B. This is the 2H. So the higher up the H's go, the finer the line goes. So if you want to, go ahead and like play with your pencils on a scrap piece of paper if you have several. If you just have an HB, that's totally fine. But I wanted to explain to you that as you're starting to work on shading, it's important to look at this. I'm going to actually send it over on the thread so that you guys can really see it, because sometimes it's super hard. Sometimes it's harder to see things on Zoom, particularly when we get to color. So is that helpful for people to know that? Did you wonder what those B's and those H's and those F's meant? So that's a huge, so part of it is kind of knowing what your tool can do, and then knowing how to get a better tool when you're not getting what you want. So for those of you who are going to start, we're going to start the same, drawing the same way, whether you're using the grid or not. What those who are using the grid are going to do is you're going to start by drawing this line that's kind of green and red. Ignore this one here. You're going to start by drawing this line, and you're going to use these spaces on the grid to help locate where your line should go. Does that make sense? So I am going to take a picture of this so you can see it really well. But I'm also going to do it for you. I'm going to do it for you, with you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Can you take a picture of the flower without all that marking on it and send
It's in
it
it. It's in there, honey. You just got to go
Oh,
back two
you.
steps.
And
Two
Leah, I don't have
steps.
pencil, so I'm gonna do it with pastel.
Okay, that's great. So pick a kind of neutral pastel, and you can actually add color because Kyoko, I don't know if you saw this, but there's both a color version.
Yeah, I saw that. That's
yeah,
why
so
I'm
you can
gonna
use
the
it.
pastel.
Yes, you could totally. So Claudia, if that's something you want to do, you could totally use pastels with this. I mean, a lot of the same principles apply. Here, Osiris, I'm gonna resend it over so everybody sees it. It's right here at the front now. And here is the color version for those who might want to try this in pastel. If you're going to try this in pastel, you should pick a kind of a rusty orange color, like a burnt sienna.
Right.
To help you so that you know it'll disappear when you do your top layers. No black, right? That will not, because you can't fade that out. And if you get your lines in the wrong place, you can't erase.
And I should do the base and then the hairspray first, right?
No, just do the just do the drawing, and
Okay.
you'll layer colors on top.
Okay.
You'll layer colors on top. Okay, so let me go back. I like to start my drawing with an HB pencil just because it's not too hard and not too soft. By the way, does anybody have an idea of what pencil is made of? I just looked it up before
Graphite.
class. Yeah, which is not lead. So we talk about a lead pencil, but there's no such thing as a lead pencil really anymore. Graphite is actually its own substance. And I think they get the darker and lighter shades because they melt graphite, which is like a, I don't know, like a rock or something like coal, like a mineral, right? That you find in the ground. And they ground it in with clay and then they dry it. So I think there's more clay in a lighter pencil and there's less clay and more graphite in a darker pencil. All right. So let us begin. We'll talk about why we're doing this later. Okay, so I'm going to start here. And I'm sketching. So for those of you who have your grid, you can actually mark like where this is on your grid in relation to your grid lines, right? This one is just above this grid line, and this one's a little bit less than halfway. In fact, because you're using a grid that's the same size, you could literally measure this here with your finger, come over here and mark it on your grid. Don't let them tell you connect the dots is wrong. But if you're just eyeballing it, so see, I'm kind of coming in like this. And then coming down like this. And then it looks like I'm going kind of straight over here and then bending down. Whoops, I don't think you can see that very well. Let me sketch it in a little bit harder. Then I come down here. Here, I'm gonna pull this over just a little bit. There we go, there we go. I want you to be able to see most of the drawing so you can see. See how I've got my finger here in the area? So if you ever want to like kind of print this out, that's always helpful. I try to send the source out early enough so you can. This is coming. Notice I'm not really trying to draw this whole line. I'm doing it in pieces. So we start our drawing with this shape, which is absolutely really ugly. If you're like going, I hate this, this is ugly, you're in that's exactly where you need to be in drawing. And that's the thing that feels weird about it. It feels like you're going to notice as you start to retrain yourself as a drawer that your instincts are all going to be wrong. So just be prepared for the fact that everything you think you're going to do is not the actual sort of approach that we need. The visual spatial approach, which is the right brain, is really what we need here. So the next set of steps is to do some of the inside lines. You'll notice here, I'm sketching kind of the outside edges of things now, but I'm not getting into too much detail. I'm mostly paying attention to let's see, actually, we're going to ignore those yellow flowers right back there. I'm mostly paying attention to where the edges, here, where the edges, outside edges of things meet our umbrella. So I'm going to take a picture of this so you can see it, and then I'm going to draw it with you, so don't worry. And if you feel like, oh, I don't really get what's going on here, just watch for a few minutes. There's no real requirement that you have to follow along with me. So the next job is to draw those yellow lines. Also, you can use your grid. Right? And a lot of these shapes, these outer shapes, tend to look like triangles. Not all of them, but most of them. I'm drawing this. I'm getting pastel on my pencil drawing. Ugh. Notice I'm kind of guessing where things are. I may be right or I may be wrong, but I am getting my shapes. Like you can see, I'm getting my shapes pretty right. Oh, and here's another one, a little one here. Little guy, little triangle here. So the reason we do this is that it's very easy for us to draw our curved lines too big. Okay, so one thing I can see right here is that this gap here lines up. It doesn't go farther down than this line here. So when I come over here, right, I can kind of mark. What we're essentially doing, I didn't want this to come down any further. And then this goes almost straight across. So up, and I can see I need to bring this out a little bit more and it needs to come down. So can you see how I just corrected that shape? So I am the teacher. I've been doing this a lot of years. I am not saying that when you draw, you get things right the first time. In fact, you can kind of count on not getting things right the first time. So why are we doing this? We're doing this because we don't want to exaggerate the size of our petals. And let me show you how this works. It goes like this. People start doing that and that and that and that and that, right? They're not even looking at what the shape of this flower is. Your brain will automatically add this symmetry and these round petals. You have an idealized shape of what a petal looks like in your mind. You're going to your left brain is going to try to apply that to this situation. I can also see that if I come down here, that this triangle is pretty much lined up with this one. So one side, I don't want to bring it any further. I think this needs to come down a little bit. There we go. I'm still kind of guessing, but I think I've got things. There we go. There's my last triangle over there. Anybody finding this easier with the grid? Is it helping?
Yes.
Okay, good. Anybody finding themselves, and here's this last long skinny triangle like that, takes up most of this line. There's a little bit of space here. I think the thing that's really tough to think about when we're sketching is that everything is in relation to everything else. So you have to think about this shape that is between the flower as well as this shape, which is the flower. And we are not used to doing that. That's a visual spatial way of thinking. Who automatically thinks like that? Auto mechanics think like this. Quilters and knitters think like this. They look at visual things. They recognize immediately. A carpenter thinks like this, because the carpenter has to think about what's next to the thing as well as what is the thing. So I like to call this method of drawing construction. And when I get up here and look a little bit, yeah, actually, wait, I can't tell. Yep, that's right. So this petal is behind. It's a flower that's behind. I haven't decided to include it yet. So if you wanted to, I'm kind of ignoring this one right now, just to focus on the three that are in front. What's nice about this is that it's also much easier to correct. What I think people want to do as drawers is want to get more satisfaction from their drawing right away. They want their drawing to look like something. Sorry, I'm not trying to make you dizzy. I'm trying to get both of these visually in place. Okay. What we're trying to do, and notice what we're also doing is dealing with biggest shapes first. So our next set of lines, which I will do in blue, once again, I'm not really dealing so much with detail. I'm paying more attention to, I'm a little bit of paying attention to outer shape, but I'm paying more attention to value. I'm paying more attention to dark and light shapes, major dark and light shapes, than I am to value, because I need to get those in first before I can start working details. So I'm going to take a picture of this. Your next job is to draw the blue lines. So I feel like this is not a super intuitive process. I feel like this is a process that we have to kind of talk ourselves into doing when we first start it. And then I've got to kind of track myself here. So I can see that like this, let's see, I think this one's going to be the easier line to draw. So I'm going to sketch this in. I'm going to attach that up to this, that side of that triangle. There's about this much space here. I don't know if I exactly got that curve right, but I think I did. Right now we've got, this needs to come down a little bit. I can see that, unless this needs to come up a little bit. Actually, I think that's more of what's happening. So notice I'm looking and correcting, and I'm all the time looking at not just my shape, but the shape next to my shape. So when I'm laying this line down, I'm telling myself, I'm looking at, oh, okay, is it closer to the top or closer to the bottom? You can see where I put my first line. My first line was closer to the bottom edge of this thing, and it really needs to be more towards the top. All right. Oh, and there's one more here. It's kind of along the edge here. Let me add it in so you can see it. There's this guy. Okay. And when I sketch out this, once I get that line in, which is here, I look to see, oh, do I have this line in the right place? And I can see that this still has to come up a little bit more, because I can see that this shape is higher and this shape is a little bit smaller. So I'm always thinking as a drawer, not just about the shape, but the shape next to my shape. Oh, you know who else thinks like this? This is a puzzle. When you're putting together a puzzle, you're thinking like this, right? You're looking for the right shapes that fit each other.
That's a good example, because you look at negative space as well.
You're always looking at negative space. You're always thinking about, so you're not just thinking about the flower, you're thinking about which piece goes with which piece, right? So that's a very visual way of thinking. So puzzles are a great way to practice drawing, actually.
And what goes in the hole.
Exactly, right? Right. And where is the thing? What? So not only do I have to get this piece, but I have to see what's happening here, what's happening up here. What does that do to my shape up here? What does that do to my shape up here? And you'll notice I have been correcting as I'm going along. So I'm eyeballing this. I don't have the grid. And as I'm going along, I'm kind of, but it's easy for me to correct because I haven't done any major inside lines yet. So as I'm building these bigger shapes, that's going to help me build my smaller shapes. Once you get it, it's an amazing, and listen, this is not something that's easy to do necessarily. It requires practice, just like anything. It's just like any skill. So if you, like, you would not go into a French class expecting to be able to speak French right away, right? It's not a natural thing. You know, you need to learn rules and then practice it. You would not go into a music class expecting to know immediately how to play a musical instrument. You know that there are rules that you have to learn, and then you have to practice getting good at them. Now I'm doing this. I'm not really getting into much detail. This is my light area here. I might change the shape a little bit. I know. I have a very cute kitty milling around my legs. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to let you guys catch up while I let my cat out. The good one, the good one. So this is the sort of order of constructing a drawing, just like you might build a table, right? When you build a table with beautiful legs, oh, people who have listened to me say this, I say it so often, but it's a really good example. If you build a table with beautiful legs, you don't start by carving out a leg. You start by chopping 4 pieces of wood the same size so that your table will not be wobbly, right? That's the equivalent of what we're doing here. We're getting our outer shapes so that when we start going to detail, we know we're going to be able to get that going. I can still see, actually, I knew there was something off about this. And as you get better at this, what you'll notice is you'll get, what did I just do with my pencil here? Hold on, sorry. As you get better at this, you're going to notice that your eye gets better at noting things were wrong. So notice I kind of looked over this side and thought there was a problem here, but the problem actually isn't here. This triangle needs to come down a little bit. And so you're constantly, what happens is you just get better at, but you often can't figure it out until you, so this really needs to come down here. You don't really figure it out until you actually lay down the line and see that it's wrong. So if you're a perfectionist, I have had a couple of students who could not do art because they could not be wrong. They could not allow themselves to make an error. And drawing kind of requires you to make errors. It requires you to guess and then refigure it out as you're doing it. So it's one of those processes that it may be challenging to you, but after a while you might find it kind of nice. I kind of like see, now I feel like this is a little bit thicker and this one is a little bit narrower. If you can see my original lines, you can see that this one was kind of too thick on the bottom. I don't try to make, right? I'm not assuming that this petal is going to be the same thickness or width as this petal, because I'm seeing them from different directions. And then let's see, let's get this last dude in here. And then I'm going to stop drawing for a bit. And I want you to just send me your drawings if you're having trouble or if you're not. Okay, this is a little bit more satisfying. Now I can see now I can see that a shape is coming out of the murk. So go ahead and take a picture. Let's see, somebody just sent theirs in. And Sandra, if you're working on your little guy, you know, you of course can send him in. Let's see. Yes, good, very good. Good. I think maybe you're righter than I am on this one. So you'll laugh at this, Kyoko. I'm correcting my drawing based on looking at yours. Does that make you feel good? All right, that looks pretty good. Claire, very nice. So I'm looking, yep. And Claire, guess what? I'm correcting my drawing. Yours. So very nice eyeballing. So some of the things that are helping you, I made, so notice, notice what happens. It's very easy to make things too big. This looks great. I would say, Claire, this kind of comes up, this shape, you want to nuance this a little bit. It comes up. This is almost a triangle, but it's all, there's like a little angle line that comes up that you're going to appreciate having. Great work, you guys. Great. Who's 778? Is that you, Dawn? 778-869-7023.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well,
That's
anyway,
me.
just jump in. That's me.
That's me, Lisa.
Lisa, great.
Yeah.
I'm going
Okay,
to try
I'm
this
gonna
one.
resend this over so you can see all this stuff. I'll resend the, I think the one problem with WhatsApp is that you can't really see anything that's before you joined the thread. So there's our first group, and here's where we are right now. Wait. Where are you? Here's where we are right now. There we go. And here's what, nope, come here, you. So here's where we are right now. Here's where we come up to. I'm going to stop for a minute because I feel like this in itself, understanding this concept, if you really get it, it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing because let's see. Lisa, I can't see your whole drawing. Can you stand up and take a picture of it so I can actually see the whole thing? Looks to me like you've cut off about here.
I think you probably need to tap on the picture and you will blow up.
I'm not seeing the whole thing. I tried. Nope.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. So, all right. So there's something off here. So that's what I was noticing. So I want you to pay attention to where this triangle is. That's the issue. You have him a little bit too close to the edge, needs to be just a touch this way. That may seem very anal.
Yeah, I see.
Jane, I emailed you a link to WhatsApp. So you just need to open the WhatsApp, that email on your phone and then click the link to join.
Oh, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah. For some reason, I've had trouble getting people in via phone number. I don't know why. It's a phone number messaging thing, but it seems to work better. Dawn, good. Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
Dawn found a ruler. Very good. Let's see. Hey, Dawn, I'm having trouble seeing this. Can you step back so I can see? Can you take a picture of the whole thing?
Yes.
So I can take a look at it?
Yes, hang on.
Awesome. So is anybody's mind kind of blown by this, how we construct? Are you kind of surprised at how the flower starts to come out? I don't know. I always found this very amazing. And it's so much easier than trying to start with all the details here and then moving outward, right? I like it because it's simplifying. I like it because, so our first focus is really getting the shapes. Nice work. Okay.
Okay,
Pretty good. Looking good.
Yeah, I really like how it actually does make you look at the actual shape and not what you think the shape should be.
Yep. So Dawn, the only thing I'm going to tell you to look at is look at where this shape is in relation to the grid. You have it over here, and really it's in, believe it or not, it's in this rectangle.
Okay, show me that again. I couldn't see it.
Take a look.
Say that again. Sorry.
So where your shape is, you have it over here.
Oh, gotcha.
And this shape goes on this side of the grid.
Okay.
So you see, there's like it's no harm, no foul. And this as well. Oh, wait, you're just not finished yet. You just want to get this guy in. And yeah, no, it's looking great. Otherwise, looking great. So I know that sounds like a small thing. It probably won't make much of a difference in your flowers, Dawn. You'll probably still draw a good flower, right? If this is not exactly in the right place. But the more complex your issues, the more complex your drawing, the more these differences, these what seem like very small differences, are going to matter. So we think they don't, but so we focus on details, but we focus on our instinct is to focus on completely the wrong details. It's like trying to carve a beautiful table leg before making sure that our table legs the blocks of wood we're carving from are all the same length. Right? So that is how we construct a drawing as well. Our left brain, which is our verbal conceptual side, really fights us on this point. Our left brain does not want us to go to simplify like this. Our left brain is not used to thinking about things like that. In fact, our left brain, which is the side that learns about a thing and assigns it a name and a set of values, the left brain has to carry an idea and a picture in their mind of a thing. So with petals, Our left brain has an idea of what petals look like. And your left brain idea of the petal is going to get very much in the way of what these particular petals are doing. And Claire, your observation that, and I'm just taking a look at these. Claire, Jane, can you take a picture of this looking straight down on your painting so I'm not looking at it from an angle? It's easier for me to evaluate. Let's see.
Oh, that's better.
Nina. Looking good, Nina. Looking good. Yes. Good job. Good job. Mira, let's see. Okay, so something is off. Mira, this is off. This side here. So see, this is, so you act, do you mind if I use you as an example?
Sure.
If you guys look at Mira's drawing here, you're going to see, get out of here. You're going to see that she drew a petal where none exists.
Okay.
Do you see that? You created this as a petal shape. This is actually, a space between two flowers. So see what you did when you didn't know what it was and you thought you knew what it was. You didn't get the shape right. You tried to put more of a petal shape. So I want you to go back in. This whole shape comes into these two triangles.
Okay, straight.
Yep.
Okay.
And you'll see it. And if you're having trouble, turn your drawing upside down. At some point, we're going to turn this drawing upside down. You're going to see how great it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's see, who else? Nina's looks good. Osiris, good. Osiris, good, great shape, great shapes. So Osiris, use what works for you. If the grid is yucky, don't worry about it. Let's see, nice.
It's not that the grid is yucky. I can't follow you.
I got you. Okay, that's perfectly fine. Jane, this shape here on yours is in the wrong place. So I want you to look at where this triangle is in relation. So you drew your triangle. Let me see if I can show you. And these are those these are easy things to fix. So you drew your triangle up here like this. Can you see that? You drew your triangle like this red line here. And really it needs to come down here. The intersection of this triangle on the right side actually comes well below the halfway point of this grid line. So you need to erase this triangle and put it in the right place. Everything else looks pretty good. Yep. Everything else looks great.
Great, thanks.
This shape also is a little thinner and straighter than what you have. So see, you also drew a curved line because you saw a petal. In reality, this line is straight. So this shape needs to exist between these two petals. Hate me yet? Does anybody hate me yet? Anybody hating this yet? So this is why I get a lot of people who are like, I don't really know how to do this. I don't know how to do eyes. I don't know how to do faces. I don't know how to. It all starts with this, you guys. It all starts with getting your bigger shapes right. And as Claire was saying, I heard you saying it back. I wanted to credit you with that, Claire. It is kind of fun to actually pay attention. And the reason it's fun is that you're exercising the visual spatial side of your brain. The visual spatial side of your brain sees shapes and it sees values, which is what we're going to talk about next. And that is a great analytical skill, which I promise you will follow you into other strains of your thinking. Part of the reason for this is that we are, as we're learning a new skill where our brain is working harder, our whole brain is working. And because our whole brain is working, it's like exercise. You know how like after you exercise heavily with a trainer, your whole body, heart is pumping, the blood is going, it's kind of all going for another half hour or so. The whole brain starts firing. Whereas when you get good at something, you stop using your whole brain. The moment you kind of attain mastery, we all learn how to, a language, attaining mastery on some level, right, to communicate. We know how to drive. We don't think about it anymore, we just do it. Right. So the moment you get into that place where you have a kind of automatic process going, the brain stops using all of its brain cells, it makes a shortcut to make it easier for you. And then the brain starts to deteriorate. Fantastic, right? So really, that's why I tell people this feeling of things not feeling right, that's actually means you're probably right. And if you think you've got it, you're probably wrong. So, like anything that makes you feel a little bit unsure is fantastic for your brain health. All right, we'll keep it going here. If anybody else wants to take a look, I'll take a couple minutes and then we'll start talking about the next layer. Well, I guess there is one sort of other layer here which we can add. I'll do it in, let's see, orange, darker orange. We can add our petals in, our petal shapes, right? Those sort of, these striations here. So if you want to add these guys in, this is a good place to do it. Because now we have enough information here, down like that, like this, here. Yeah, I do this for my brain health as much as anything else. And you'll notice I start to lose my words after a while. After I've been working for a while, I'll be like, what's the word I'm using? That means I'm more looking at the shapes in the spaces than I am in my left brain, which is great for drawing and terrible for teaching. So it's a constant back and forth here. Here is the next set of lines you're going to want. So these are these inner, so that's those sort of bright orange threads there. Let's see. So if I'm sketching them in, yeah. So you'll notice that I am doing this without the grid. So at some point, when your skills at judging where things are on the paper get better, you will be able to do this too. But at the very beginning, it's always such a surprise for people. Look at, I'm still correcting. That it's good to have the grid to kind of show you where you're off. It's interesting how many value judgments go into what we're looking at, including even things that seem like they don't have values associated with them, like how much we value, like what size do you make things, right? Okay. What size? Here, let's see. This needs to come in a little bit more. There we go. You'd be surprised at how often what you value becomes the basis for how much emphasis you put on it. And sometimes that's not the right answer to the question. So I get a lot of requests for how do I draw this? How do I draw that? And I'm like, you have to start by getting that it's all the same process. I have to get my outer shapes right before I can start going into details. There we go. Now I'm starting to get something that looks a little bit like a flower. Now these lines are starting to get in my way a little bit, so I may move them out. Maybe I'll make another copy. Anyway, we'll see. We all have the copy at the beginning here. Oh yeah, and there's a little line in here that separates sort of medium dark from dark. Oh, right, and here, let's see. Now here is where I start to curve my lines. If I want to, I can get into a little bit of the detail of this flower too. And now I can kind of curve this out a little bit. So here's where I start to build my curves, really. Up, and I realize I got to bring that out here. up until now, everything is kind of straight lines. And notice that everything we're doing to this makes it look better. It also is kind of giving us the roadmap of where to go next. Ooh, Claudia, very nice. At some point, don't be afraid to push your darks, Claudia. It's a lot darker here.
Yeah.
Right? So don't be afraid to really push those darks. Like here, particularly, really pay attention to what's surrounding your white areas. And this is a great point. Claudia's working with charcoal, which we will eventually use. Beautiful, so fun. Let's see. Yep, Jane, looking good, better, much better. So as we get to this point, we're gonna stop for a second and talk about value, because once we get the major shapes in our drawing, what's going to give it life and context is value. So what is value in drawing? Here, let's see if I can find another sheet of paper that doesn't have so much stuff on it. You're going to hear people use that term a lot. So I'm training you up. I'm training up here. I'm going to get one more piece of paper, you guys. I'll be right back. Right. So I'm training you up with the lingo, the professional lingo that is used to construct something. That's understanding how to talk about things. Like when you look at a drawing and you're like, it's not right. It's good to then go, well, what's not right about it? Is the problem with the shape or is the problem with the value? So value in drawing is, and I'm sorry for the repeat for people who have been in my classes for a while, you're going to hear me do this over and over again. They're still here, so obviously they're still finding some value, some other kind of value, right? So if a 1 is white or light and a 5 is very dark, right? Then 2, 3, and 4 are variations of gray. Talk about shades of gray that gradually get darker. So I want you to practice creating a value scale where you can see that transition happening. Definitely it's good here. And there has to be, and what's really nice is if you look at the difference between 5 and 1, it's very distinct. So we like to start with our highest contrast areas where one value meets another, because that's going to give us our drawing. That's going to sort of give us our drawing the most quickly. Right, is to pay attention to where a 5 meets a 1. But go ahead and practice for a second your value scale. And all colors and values are relative. So it's the value of one thing next to another that you're looking at. So once again, we're not just thinking about the thing that we're working on, we're thinking about the thing next to it, right? We're always thinking about the shapes that are next to each other. Am I getting these shapes right? Part of getting the shapes right is to pay attention to value. So take a minute. Oh boy, it's cold. Hold on. Do anybody else's cats like boss them around, like control their life like mine control me?
Oh yeah, you're the servant.
What's that?
That's how it works.
I am the servant.
Yes, that's how it works with cats.
Sandra, you ought to write a fucking book about cats. You are the best. When it comes to cats, I trust you like infinitely. By the way, once we have got our shapes, we can get rid of these annoying outer lines. Look kind of ugly. You can erase those. So that you can kind of focus more on your shapes. Yeah, that looks better. So everything we're doing to this, the great thing about this is our expectations start out low, right? Because the shapes are so awkward. And then as we go up, everything we do makes it better. Okay, so if I am going to be working with values, and the first values I'm going to lay down, I want to make sure that I'm getting the biggest shapes first. So where I'm looking for is the areas where a 5 meets a 1. So I would say that is here. These whole petals are 5. This is a 1. This is like a 4. And actually, maybe this is more like a 4. I think a 5 is here. I think 5 is here.
Very
Maybe the
small.
rest of these are 4s. The rest of these darks are not exactly as dark. Here is a 4. So you'll notice this whole area is not 5, right? So let me just go in to the darkest area first. So I'm going to where my 5s are, and I'm darkening them. And if you're struggling to see, why am I doing the biggest areas first? Quite simply because that's going to give me the most satisfaction in my drawing the quickest. So I'm kind of going over with a shading motion like this, right? And then I'm going to stop here. I'm going to come up here. So I'm moving around. I'm moving around. Once again, that's another way of kind of disengaging your brain to think about the thing, the flower that you're drawing, and more just focus on the shape. Right now, I'm just kind of laying out lines. You'll see I'm doing this kind of dark line where I go over and over going in the same direction, right? There are a couple of ways you can shade. You can also do that. This is cross hatching, where you lay lines close to each other and then you just keep going back and forth this way and that way. And the more you go, the darker it gets. The less you go, the lighter it is, right? So you can see this reads as lighter and this reads as darker. But I'm not a big crosshatcher. It's not my thing. Are there any more 5s? No. And then I can kind of go to my 4s. So I want to make sure, oh, right. And so my first 4 is here. And so I want to have it get lighter here. But I like to get rid of that line. I don't want that line to be so strong. So I'm going in and I'm kind of blending the edge where the light meets the medium meets the dark. Can you see that? So that there's a kind of smoother transition. I use my finger a lot. That is definitely not professional. I do that. You can tell I'm a painter. I've learned to draw by painting, and I draw like a painter draws, which is basically to think about big shapes rather than contour lines. I'm not as excited about contour lines as I am by the shapes of things here. There is 1 or 2 other dark areas. If I want to get really technical, there are some areas around here that are kind of dark. So I can also go around the edge of things if I want to show in some areas like here, right? So this is actually, here's how you can tell the difference between a 4 and a 5. The background is 5. So I'm also moving outside the lines of thinking about the object, the subject. Part of thinking about the subject is thinking about what's next to the subject, right? So this is kind of darker. This is going to help me. So this is a 5. And when I lay this down, this has to be slightly lighter than this. And I have to be able to see it. So this is a great place to start on my 4 here. Right now, I am making a lot of horizontal strokes with my pencil. There is more than one way to do this, as I said, but I'm kind of trying to follow. I want my lines and my marks to follow I want them to follow the sort of shape and direction that each of these things is moving in. So I really wouldn't want to do this because the petal is kind of pushing out this way, and those lines going vertically are distracting. So here it is. I'm kind of laying this down, still fairly loosely. Notice I've got my darker area here. And when I get here, here's where I start paying attention a little bit more to what the shapes look like, the details, right? So here, let's see if I can sketch this in. Here is where I start to pay more attention to these little ridges. And that's where I put my detail. I can do that in two ways. I can do that by bringing the dark in like this, or I can also do it by bringing my pencil here. This is actually a really good way. I'm going to bring my dark in like this into the white shape. And then I'm going to come back out with my eraser and erase out. I kind of want to get rid of this line that I originally sketched in, right? Now I don't want that here anymore because that line is not really distracting. So I can even come over the edge, right? And really darken and sharpen. See how it works? Isn't that amazing? Look at that. All of a sudden, we're starting to get some form, like little by little, your drawing reveals itself to you. And that still amazes me in every single painting I do. Don, the painting that you just bought, when it came out, I was like, for the longest time, it was a big painting. It was like 5 by 6 feet, right? So I'm like painting it, and it's looking just like lines and shapes. It doesn't look like, and then all of a sudden you add the thing in, you don't even know what it is you're adding in that makes it look like a painting, that makes it come together. And then it pops, right? And you never, and I'm going to tell you now, having done this for 20 years, I still am like, when is that going to happen? Sometimes that happens right away. Sometimes it looks awkward. Like right now, this drawing is still looking pretty awkward, right? We really don't have enough information. So I really need, and in fact, if I really want to get technical about it, I should come along the edge here of all my petals. I don't have to finish my petal to really see that if I want to really get some shape happening here, I should go along the edge of the petal here and use that same technique. So this is not, people ask me if like drawing is relaxing. It is, but it's not relaxing the way, right? Like it's not relaxing. Yeah, kind of, right? It's not relaxing the way like laying on a beach and reading a magazine is relaxing. It's not. You're working pretty hard.
It engages our brain.
Yes, in a different way than we're used to.
But
So
you get in the zone though.
What's that?
I can feel I'm getting in a zone while doing that chicken. You get in a zone.
Exactly. And by the way, great chicken. That's one of those Hawaiian chickens, right? The wild ones that are totally colorful.
A colorful one because I want to use the drawing and then paint it in gouache and paint it in watercolor.
Yes, yes. Wonderful.
Oh.
Wonderful. So what Sandra's doing, you guys, because she's sat through 2 or 3 lessons already, and she's going to do tomorrow's workshop. She's sick of tulips. So she's picking her own thing to work on, and that's also totally valid. So if you have something else you want to work on, these lessons are optional. They are really optional.
Oh.
Right? Like
building blocks.
They're the building blocks. So for the people who don't know how to start and do things, that's what you do. But if you have an idea of something you want to work on, you should totally do it. And I will help you, even as I'm going along here.
I just sent you the updated chicken.
Let's see.
I measured everything.
I think it's these feral chickens that run around Hawaii. I'm pretty sure, or maybe I'm wrong. I just don't know enough chickens.
Picked it because of it was so colorful.
Oh, Sandra, wonderful.
It's a
Yeah,
research
if you want to
take-
see, so Sandra's doing, look at what Sandra's doing. She's doing the same thing that we're doing. If you want to look at her sketch, you can see the photo. Here, look at this. You can see the photo, and if you look up close, you can see the drawing. And what you'll see is she has divided her shapes in a very similar way. There's not too much detail, and the only place the detail is where a lighter area meets a darker area. Take a look. She's automatically done it. Also, you'll notice what I'm noticing is as I move away from this, I do see that it was important to get this value change in here. That when I step back, this is darker means that this kind of shape is coming up, and that this is lighter means that this shape is laying flat. So every time basically there's a shift in value, there is a shift in plane. So there's a shift in direction. So that's why value and shape are important, because when values and shapes change, the light changes, and that shows, that creates for us a sense of the illusion, the 3D, that creates for us a sense of, how do I say it? The sense of 3 dimensions is getting our value shifts happening in the right way, right? To create a feeling of 3 dimensions on a flat surface. I mean, this is an illusion. And we are magicians. And our magician's trick, really the only thing we have in our box of tricks is to get our shapes right and to pay attention to where our values meet. Now I'm starting to feel like my drawing is looking a little bit more like a drawing. I don't know if you guys are. I'm almost thinking I may just, here, let me finish this flower here, and then I'm going to stop, because I think you're all getting it, and it probably would be more helpful for me to look at your stuff than to do it myself. So down here, there's an interesting shift right down here at the bottom. You'll see that this outer lip is a little bit lighter. It's like a 3. So you also want to, and that shows like a bit of petal kind of curling over. So I want to make sure that this reads as a 3 in relation to my 4. See, that's, I'm actually paying attention to this edge here. It may be this even turns kind of more into a 5 and this a 4, but these kind of things. So this is where we get into the detail, right? Is where edges meet. So if you ever hear a painter say, or art is really about working the edges.
Oh.
You're just looking at where light edges meet dark edges, and you're trying to make sure the shapes are right, and you're trying to make sure that the edges, so we notice the edge where this comes here. So this kind of detail is important, but all of this business in here is a little bit less so. It depends on how detailed you want to get, but, and then like, here's another example. Let's see, this is pretty, this is like a 4 here. And then up here, it kind of, there's a little light area and then a dark area next to it. So it's like dark in this little triangle, right? And then it's light in here. And then it's dark all around. So you see, now you start to make these distinctions. It's dark around the edge here. Often, if you're like, why is this not working? It's not the thing that you're working on. It's the thing next to what you're working on that needs to be worked on. How's that for a mental shift? Does anybody find this interesting? Kind of fascinating?
Leah,
Yeah.
could you also tell us about the different papers? I mean, some papers are smooth and some are, they've got like texture. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely, and that becomes, right, I have you working on printer paper because I don't want you to get, right, I want you to get these fundamentals, but there are all kinds of paper choices. Oh, and by the way, this needs to be really dark. There are all kinds of, you will find that one of the ways to enhance your drawings is to pay attention to your substrate, right? Like, what are you, and look at, when I put this dark in here, by the way, look what happened. Boom, this flower began to curve out. So there are all kinds of papers. For pencil, you can pick drawing papers. So a kind of basic sketch pad. So this printer paper is very smooth. It's not really exciting to work on. It's standard. I like to use it because everybody usually has it around. You might also have a sketch pad. The sketch pad paper will feel a little thicker and a little rougher. So that roughness is what they call tooth. The paper has tooth, and it will create textures for you, right? And then from there, I mean, Sandra, I don't know about you. Since I don't really draw much except using pastel work, I don't really have favorite papers that I like to use because I'm not much of a pencil drawer. I don't do it as much except in relation to my painting work. But there are all kinds of different papers with textures that you'll see, you get to kind of make a decision that will inform your work, if that makes sense. And it also applies to watercolor paper, which has different widths. It applies to ink
Hot or
paper,
cold pressed. yeah.
pasta, right? Like, yes. So anything generally that's cold pressed paper, that means they take paper shreds and they get them wet, and then they dry them together in a clump and create a sheet of paper. Cold press tends to be lumpier. So if the paper is dried in a cold press method, there tends to be more bumps and texture. Hot
But you
press.
can control.
Well, that's interesting, Sandra, because I like hot press
water.
better. I think I can
Oh, that's
control the water
interesting.
better on hot press. Isn't that interesting? So
that's
I feel like
interesting.
it's just different for different people. I think I like a smoother surface in general.
I just realized for drawing, I bought 2 pads, 2 different textures. But
Yeah.
I like smooth, actually. I just
Yeah,
decided.
I like to kind of use a smoother paper. So I'm always sort of tending towards a smoother paper. But other people, it just depends on how you like to use your tool. So you guys are probably already noticing by now that although we are all using the same tools and working on the same process, your drawing is looking different. So you will find your way, what you like, and the joy of the discovery of art. So what I'm teaching you are the basic fundamentals, what you need no matter what materials you're using, right? But what you get to play around with is what types of paper do you use? What types of pencils do you like to use? What do you like? You know, I'm doing all of this with an HB. I haven't gone to any of my darkers yet. Right? I haven't gone there yet. I'll probably go there a little bit later, but right now I'm doing a lot of work. But maybe you want more, you know, detail. Maybe you like more, you like something that's a little bit bumpier. So that's the kind of fun exploration that happens, right?
Yeah,
As you start, yeah.
Bit outside the subject, but I have a burning question. I've been watching watercolor videos, and they
Yes.
say go very light with your drawing so that the pencil is not seen. But I remember that one of the things that seduced me years ago about watercolor was actually to see the outline.
Right.
In pencil
I
or
like
in
the
ink.
I like that too. I agree with you. So that is a, I mean, you want to be careful not to go so heavy, right? That
Right.
like the lead keeps mixing. But I agree. I feel like with my watercolors, the work that I do, the pencil is an integral, it's more like a mixed media piece. The pencil becomes like it. So this becomes a preference.
Okay,
It depends on
good.
how you like your mark making to look. And that's the kind of cool thing about it. And I was just going to tell you something else about that. Oh, yes. In landscape painting, there are very different interpretations of what is a landscape painting, right? There are people who are landscape painters, who feel that you have to paint exactly what you see, that it is not a landscape painting unless you paint exactly what you see. One of my best friends here is a really wonderful plein air painter. He's a plein air landscape painter. And Don believes more in the essence of the landscape. So he changes things. If like there's an extra tree that's bothering him, he takes it out, right? His work is soft. It's literal. It's definitely literal enough that it's taking the light in directions and all of that, right? He's using life to inspire his work. But at the end, he's doing very loose. he's doing very loose, and he's kind of changing things as he's going along. So as an artist, you have a right to make those decisions. And it's interesting because he was just featured on the cover in October of Plain Air magazine, which is a very traditional magazine. And it's interesting that they picked him because he's not a traditional landscape painter. Many people might argue that that is not the way to do it. So there are, I guess my point is, there are things that you can do, but what's more, the sort of more to the point is that you get to kind of, as you get better at determining shape and value and translating 3 dimensions to 2, right? To get them in the right places, you will start to see that there is a natural mark making that you're doing. There's a natural voice, and that there are things that you prefer. So you do want to like give yourself, even though there are some rules that are important, a lot of like things like paper size and texture and strength, all that is about yeah, it's your voice. And you can see, everybody start taking pictures. I'm going to stop here because I want you to, we've got half an hour left. And by the way, I don't expect you to finish this drawing necessarily, so I want you to take your time with it. What I wanted to do was give you an assignment that this is my what do you call it? My ulterior motive. See, I keep forgetting how to talk. It's my ulterior motive is to give you something to keep working on after class is over. For those of you who read the basic tips to drawing, and for those of you who are new, oh, that's looking great, Kyoko. Just keep on going. Just keep on going. Wonderful. Although, Kyoko, you're going to want this triangle to be darker than this guy, right? You're going to want to layer a darker color on top of this one, because these are not the same value. This is more like this is like a 4.5, really. They're not really exactly the same. This is slightly lighter. So you'll want to get that in there, but very nice. You'll see, by the way, that color is also related to value, and value in color is very subjective. It depends on what the color is next to. So a yellow could be read as a medium, or it could be like a 3, or it could be read as a 1. It depends on what it's next to. So as you get better at judging value, you'll start to see that that informs your color work. And by the way, tomorrow Marie is going to show you guys how to do, sorry, Sandra. Marie is going to show you how to do like she does pastel landscape. So you'll be working in, you know, the chalky pastels. She's going to show you how to do a landscape of tulips. So when you have a whole row of tulips, how do you paint that? Right?
I need to learn that.
A field of tulips that goes back. What are the things that you do? We're focusing on these tulips that are kind of right up front. But I hear you, Sandra. I haven't not heard you, just so that you know. I haven't not heard you. I feel your pain. I got it. We're continuing. I'm continuing to kind of, this is the first time I've taught these classes kind of continually together. And so I'm still kind of inventing the curriculum as I go along. And because I know that you guys come to more than one class, I like to kind of show the continuity between the different mediums. Anyway, I've been talking a lot. The last thing I'm going to say before I shut up and let you just do your thing and ask any questions that you want and send your drawings across is that you'll see in the beginning drawing tip sheet that I gave you that my recommendation is that if you want to start bringing drawing into the drawing practice into your everyday life, you want to start getting better at it. If you're working full time, it's good to start with, how do I add 3 hours in a week? Can I add 3 hours of drawing in a week? Now, if you come to one class, that's 2 hours. So I'm giving you something that you can continue to work on to get your 3 hours a week. Once you get your 3 hours a week in, you'll find it's pretty easy to jump up to 6 and still work full time. If you're really serious, you can probably jump up to 12 and work full time. but I hope you don't have kids or they're grown up or something, or they have things to do. So you don't have to spend all your time working with them. But there's a kind of progress that you want to work on where you get a certain amount of hours in a week so that you get better at this. I'm going to stop here at this point. I would love you to send in what you're working on if you need help or you just want to show it. Ah, yes. Let's see, Claire. Nice. So Claire, I want you to pay a little bit more attention to this edge here. Right now, you've just got those straight lines. Make that a little bit, you're going to be happier with this if you make these petals a little bit darker and you make that edge a little bit more raggedy. See how it's kind of raggedy? And I do that by kind of pulling in, see, and I kind of do this sort of soft pencil sketch. I draw so much like a painter. This is exactly what I would have you do if you had a paintbrush in your hand, although the technique would be a little bit different. Those of you who are taking painting, you probably already noticed, wow, she talks about everything the same way. It's the same if you're painting or if you're drawing. So you want to push your values here and really pay attention to this edge. So this is kind of a soft edge. We start with this hard line, but that's, if you're wondering like kind of where, and you may want to go in with a slightly darker pencil too, if you're having trouble.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
See.
I don't have an eraser, so that's something I've got to
Oh,
get.
yeah,
next
yeah.
time.
Erasers are necessary.
Yeah.
Or a rubber, as you guys would call it.
Yeah, but that means something a bit different to you guys.
Right,
it
does. It always makes me chuckle.
I've
Very
made that
nice.
mistake.
Very nice, Lisa, very nice paying attention to the edges here. Now extend that, because in truth, this is all one value. You want to extend that darkness level all the way up your flower so that you don't have this little edge that's dark and everything else lighter. So don't forget to go back over here.
Can you show me that? Sorry, can you show me how to do that second grid at the top? That is light and then there's a bit of grayish.
Where you got to show me where? What do you mean?
That second grid at the top.
This one?
Yeah.
This one? It's just lighter values. So yeah, I'll do a little bit. So this is more like a 3 and a 1.
Wrong way.
So you know what I'm going to do? This is what I would do. Here, I'm going to do it like this. So this is going to stay light, right? And this is going to be kind of a 3 on the value scale. So I'm going to go over the whole thing like this. And then, so Claire, don't do this because you need an eraser for this technique. All right. So this is, well, okay. So this has got to be a lot lighter. So then I'm going to go back in with my eraser and pull out my lights. Can you see that? So that makes a nice soft line. And then there's a little, if you want to get really crazily anal, there's a little kind of slightly darker edge here. Can you see that?
Yeah.
You can start to, so always notice that what I'm doing is I'm always working one edge. So where this light edge meets these dark edges, right? And then it's a little bit darker here, down here. And then there's a light kind of edge here, right? That separates this from this. And it's lighter up here. So I can even kind of pull my eraser over lightly to lighten that up. So now I start to pay attention more to these shapes. And then the last thing I can do is kind of to shape this on the outside is kind of get that dark in there, right? Around the outside. I don't have to do the whole outside, but I can kind of, yeah, I draw just like I paint. If you guys take any painting lessons with me, you're going to see me do the same thing with painting, right? I'm just thinking about that as I'm pulling apart the process. I'm looking at the edges. I'm using my background to help determine this shape.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Does that help?
Yeah, really helpful.
Awesome. So always, you could go through your whole drawing and just label, like this is a 5, which means this is a 4, right? So I need to make sure this is dark enough. So I may have to go in and darken a bit as I add in this 4 here. And I know this is a 4 because I can see it. It's lighter than this. And this petal is going vertical. So in this case, let's see, I started to make horizontal lines. That didn't work. This is because this petal is pointing up like this. I'm bringing my lines more vertical. So there's a bunch of things at play here. Its shape, its value, its edges, and then it's like the direction of your mark making, right? How does your mark look? I'll see it. So down here, this dark petal comes down here. It seems like a small thing, right? This kind of darkness here. But if I can get that right and then blend it upward, now this petal starts to come out. So I'm spending as much time working on this as I am on this part as I am on this part. And then there's this little darker area here, right? Here. So now I can get that kind of sweet. And then it's a little bit lighter here. So it's more like a 3 here. So this is a 5, this is a 4, 5, and 3. Maybe even a 2. And it gets to 3 here. And then notice as it comes down, it gets darker. So you're always looking at the shape and then the shape next to the shape. Which is a lot of work, but it's still fun. And if you want to go back here, I can pull the original drawing. And then here's what I'm going to do to you guys. Those of you who are looking at the screen, I'm going to turn this upside down. So I want you to turn your drawing upside down for a little while. See if that makes things easier to see. Of course, now we've got here. I'm going to put this upside down now, and then I'm going to go make a printed copy, which does not have all these lines on it, so you can see everything better. But for the moment, I want you to see what happens when you try turning your drawing upside down. It's often easier to see the shapes. We'll talk about why. I can see, for example, that this is lighter and this is darker. Can you see that, this petal? I can see that way easier when I'm looking at this upside down. So this is actually really more like a 5, this petal. So I can do that. I think I probably need my B. I need a darker, this my B? No, that's my H, wrong pencil. Where's my B? Here's my HB. Here's my B. So if I want to get even darker, I might come in here with my B so I can darken. And I can really see that. I can really see this shift in value. And I didn't really see it when I was looking at it upside down, the right side up. You should see this. I used to teach a kids class of 11-year-olds. And the first time I suggested we draw upside down, they were all like, no, they were screaming, no, don't do that. Don't do that. And then when we did it, when we practiced it for a while, like they loved it. It was like easy. I said, this is going to be easier for you to see what's going on here. I also see that there's this nice little super dark edge here through the middle. And then right next to it is, and then I need to get this a little bit darker to be able to show, because this is still darker. So you see how it's all relative? As you start to get more detail in, it's like how you pay attention to the edges and then pay attention going forward. All right, I'm going to go print this out so you guys can see this upside down without all this junk on it. Let's see where you get to. Let's see.
It should be open.
This looks great, Osiris. Claudia, much better. Great. Love that values push. Now we're getting somewhere. Yeah. Jane, nice. Nice. Really starting to get there. Keep working around. Hold on. I am going to, oops. Don, I think you joined.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye, Osiris. Have a good one. I'm sending that over to beginning drawing. Nice. Okay, hang on just a second. Be right back. Okay. Switch because I think at this point you guys have all your things in the right places, and it's going to be more helpful for you to see these shapes without all the junk on them. There we go. So I think it's going to be easier. So does anybody notice the intellectual rigor of this process? This is a hugely intellectual process. Very nice, Nina. Coming along. So Nina, start to pay attention to these shapes here. I think this will really help this drawing, right? So start to bring in your petal shapes here. They're much easier to see now. So you can start to shape, there's your petal here. So start to like shape out that by using your eraser to pull things in. Nice.
Okay. Yeah, I see it. Thank you.
Yep. Anybody find this easier?
Different perspective.
A different perspective. Talk to me, but what do you mean?
Well, no, it just all of a sudden the dark popped out once you flipped it over.
Isn't that interesting? Right. So you know what happened? What happened was your left brain stopped trying to interpret what was happening here. And all you can see is shape. So it's like the left brain is always saying, tulip, petal, open, blah, 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 bad, boyfriend from high school, I hate, you know, whatever it is. Like it has all these associations with tulip that it's throwing out at you. And when you turn it upside down, your left brain just gets quiet for a second. It doesn't quite know what it's looking at, which makes it easier to see the shapes. I know, I saw this too. I was like, wow, I didn't even see that. Like this shift here from this petal, it makes sense because this petal is closer to the light and it's on top. So it's likely to be a little bit lighter than this one or this one or that one.
Mm-hmm.
I know, it's just easy. It just sort of short circuits.
Leah, do you have any tips on, like, you know, when you're what is it? You're doing pencil and then you get all that graphite like on your hand and then it smudges everywhere?
Yeah, take a minute to go wash your hand.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Oh, you mean like that?
Yeah, exactly. What do
you know what actually helps, because you do a lot of leaning to steady your pencil, right? So you're doing a lot of leaning. So what I do is I just turn my source and my pencil around so that I'm here on a part. So I got all this because I was leaning on this. So so this way, just to stop for a second, right? I was leaning here to get this in. But if I turn this upside down, then I can lean here, right? So move your paper around. Since it doesn't matter really what side you're working on, if you move your paper around, then you can lean on places that you haven't drawn on yet.
Okay.
Is my best suggestion for you there. But also
shading with your hand on top of your pencil. You know how you can hold your pencil differently? Like your thumb is underneath your pencil and then your hand is, kind of like that. But then you're not leaning your that bottom part of your palm on the paper.
On there. You could pull it off there and try this, but you don't generally have the control that you do when you lean on the surface.
Okay.
Which is probably why painters have a lot of carpal tunnel.
Okay.
Right, because you're pushing. But like, so you can pull your hand off like this, but you're going to see you have less control. So if you want more control, you lean in. You actually can bring your pencil in closer, your finger in closer to the tip. Right, like this. And when you want a looser stroke, you can pull back. Yeah, good. Very nice observation, because those are all things that you're going to start figuring out as you start to work with this tool, right? I like that. We've got about 15, 20 minutes left, so no worries, you guys. Just keep on going.
Oh, that went fast.
Can you believe that we almost did 2 hours? Yeah.
When I'm in a work meeting, it feels like 2 hours feels like an eternity.
Yes.
God, because it's almost every day.
Right. And I think that looking at Zoom is exhausting in a meeting situation because you're forced, there's a lot of information you can pick up when you're with somebody in person that you can't see on Zoom, and a feeling, right? Like there's things you can't feel. So,
Oh, yeah.
So you're sort of forced to work extra hard to figure out what's going on, to interpret what people are saying, to interpret what people are doing. But in this, that's why I'm very clear on this one. And I see most of you have turned your video off, and I think that's great. You're not actually looking at the screen unless you're watching me. You're kind of passively watching me doing something, but you're not required to have me look at you, right? And even when you're sending me stuff, you're not looking at the screen. We don't have to look at the screen to interact with each other. And I think that makes a big difference. So we're moving our attention and our focus to real things that are in real time. This piece of paper is like real, your pencil in your hand. You can focus on things that are entirely different than you're focusing on with a Zoom meeting. Yeah, I became really aware of that as we kind of went through last year. I noticed people began, like at first people were really excited and they all wanted to see each other, particularly if you work at the same company or you know each other, you're not, in the same room. And students like got to know each other, they wanted to see each other. And then after a while, people stopped. After a while, people were like, I'm turning off this video. I can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
It's brutal. So this is all designed to refresh you, right? Now, once you get into stuff like this, you can see that there are smaller changes. Let's see if I can do a couple of these before we go. So I'm still looking at those shapes, the dark shapes kind of first. There are kind of like little dark shapes in my light shapes here, right? So I'm still looking at those. Oh, this is the wrong pencil to be using. It's slightly darker. I was using the the H, the 2H, which really, the problem with the 2H is that it's just too fine. It creates lines that are too hard. I want softer lines that kind of read more like shapes. Different drawing teachers will probably want to use that more, but not me. And that's because, oh, and you know what else will really help here? Getting those lines in. So as I start to, yep. I have a better eraser. I must have better eraser. No. Notice you use up your erasers awfully fast. As I start to get into more of these details. Yeah, so notice I can actually pull out quite a bit of white, just even, I probably scrubbed it over with my finger. So I can, with my eraser, kind of create these softer edges between light and dark without getting too detailed. There are some edges that come up. So really, I'm still paying attention to these light, medium, and dark shapes. I'll take one more picture of this so that you guys can see it for whatever we don't have time to finish. But notice, although we thought of this as a 1, when I look at it more closely, there's really a 1 and a 1.5. It's not all light. When I look up close, I realize my white isn't all white. Oops, and this, and you can see I totally missed that shape. There we go. So see, I can go in and start to add little bits of these dark shapes. There's probably like a 1, a 1.5, and a 2 in there, value-wise. So as I get more detailed, I pay, oh, and I also notice that this is kind of going at an angle. So I can see, I can fix these things. Fix this. This edge is kind of crinkly and it's super dark. And then over here, it gets kind of light. And I kind of lose my line here. So you see, I can go in and kind of get that variation. Now is the time to do it. Because now, it's always an edge question. See, now I'm starting to like add more detail in there. You could do this forever. Nice work, Claire. See you next time. Yes. Oh, Kyoko, that's wonderful. Aren't you happy?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So with your, yeah, maybe a sort of light lemon yellow for these lights in here, something. You don't have to stick with the colors that are in the color photo unless you want to. So for newbies, how's it going for you? How are you liking
Good.
this? Yeah.
I like it.
Talk to me. Tell me what you like about it.
Well, I know I said it's mind. I'm using my brain. It's different than my regular job, and
Yes.
Just
I
as well.
am appreciative of getting back into the difference between the values because I
Yes.
forgot that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of relaxing.
It is, isn't it? I mean, it's relaxing, it's focusing. So
In a
it's
different
kind of,
way.
It's hard work, but you're
Yes.
not, it's hard work, but the task is clear, right? You have a very clear task. And so when you know what that task is, you're just focused on doing the task. And then you forget what time it is and you forget how much time. So it's relaxing in that way. And then what you're also doing is you're probably feeling a little better than you did at the beginning of class. You're probably feeling a little bit more calm.
Yes.
Right? You're probably feeling a little bit more focused, less scattered, more calm. I mean, I noticed yesterday I had a very busy day with my business and I could not I was supposed to paint in the afternoon and I just couldn't do it. It didn't happen. And by the end of the day, my brain was completely scattered. I couldn't do anything. Like I was like, I can't find this thing on the computer. I can't. And then this morning I woke up and finished a painting that I've been wanting to finish before class today. And I found that the most, like, I came into this class much more clear, right? Because I had taken that time for myself to paint. So I find there's something about the process that really stills the voices in one's head. If that makes sense. You'll find over time, and sometimes you'll get to a point where you'll feel frustration more than anything else. That is also a very natural part of the drawing process. Anybody who's been on here for a long time will tell you that they have at some points felt frustrated, but that's okay.
Yes, I can totally, yep.
Yeah, Claudia.
I will say I have been frustrated many times.
What keeps you coming back?
Like, but yeah.
What keeps you coming back then?
Well, I know it's not, I know I just need to take it easy. And I'm like, I need to, come to terms with the fact that it's not always going to be perfect. And I just need to like chill basically. So I'm trying on being more chill.
And Claudia is a real regular. She's been doing this forever. We actually met in person almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago now, when I went to LA and did a workshop for the LA Press Club. So yeah, I think there's also like, I think it's worth pushing through the frustration to get to the other side of it, right? Like it's a frustration that's controllable, as opposed to frustrations on a lot of levels have not been able to answer, right? Like many people would say, if you live in the US, it's been a frustrating year. or anywhere, all of us, because
Yes.
pandemic, right? So it's a frustrating year. Like it's last year was a frustrating year. And there were a lot of things, there was a lot of places that we couldn't do, there was stuff that we couldn't do with that frustration. Whereas this frustration, pushing past this frustration, there is a value to it. Because basically the frustration just means you don't know how to think about this in the right way, right? And once you figure out how to think about it in the right way, it gets better. It gets better and kind of easier. So you have periods of frustration. Claudia's made, the other thing I'll say about Claudia is she's made a tremendous leaps this year. Claudia, take a picture of your charcoal and show them what you did. It's beautiful. So she has gone from like 0 to 180. And so, and the reason that she's gone so fast is that she's allowed herself to be frustrated, right? That's the reason. Same with Sandra. Sandra does tremendous work. In fact, Sandra even came to us doing some tremendous work. Sandra, like the level of like what the leap I've seen in your work is dramatic. Like it's massively dramatic. So as we push up in level, there's a sort of period where your brain has to create a new process for you to understand things. And you're always hitting the edge of that, right? When you're starting to learn this new thing, this new skill, you're always hitting the edge of what you know. My job is to get you over those humps. But also your job is to get you over those humps. It's often just practice. So it's a worthwhile thing. Let's see. Sorry, Kyoko's that I haven't been looking. If you are on this thread, you'll always be on it unless you want to remove yourself. Oh, Kyoko, that's wonderful. Yes. Beautiful. Kyoko's having fun.
Yeah, at some point in the class, will you be teaching how to draw human figures?
Yes, we're going to go into that and in fact, you'll have 4 chances a week to do that starting in June. So we'll go to human figure in June and we'll spend 2 months there doing nothing but the figure.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. We're going to do figure. We're going to do faces. Nice, you guys. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Mira, nice. So Mira, I think we're losing a little bit here. We're losing. Well, actually, you know what? This is kind of what's happening here.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? Sorry, I have to look at it upside down. This needs to be much darker. So can you see that these, like, I was like, why is this looking mushy? It's because this isn't dark enough and these aren't light enough. So go in with your eraser a little bit to increase this shape. And you're going to be happier with this result. So your contrast isn't enough there. Otherwise, very nice.
Yep.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Let's see. Nina, nice. I'm just looking here. What can I tell you quickly? So let's see. So Nina, this like sort of area that you've got in here is too dark. If you'll see here, I'm going to show it to you how it looks when we compare it. So can you see, do you think this is supposed to be this shape here? So there's no extra dark area here. This is all, these petals are too light, if that makes any sense. So you need to go much darker along here because right now this shape is jumping out at me because I don't see it here. I don't see that dark shape surrounded by light shapes. Really, this is all like a 4. Maybe this is slightly lighter, but this is you see, these are all mostly darker than you've got them. So that is, so either get rid of this thing, or darken everything to the level that it's dark. That's probably what will be bothering you the most. Otherwise, very nice. Otherwise, sorry, I tend to go straight to the problem. Oh, very nice, Jane. Beautiful. Nicely done. I love this transition. I love this transition that you've got going here from here to here. That's very nice. Very lovely. Did you find it easier when we turned this upside down?
Yes, very much.
Yes.
Much easier. Much easier. All right. So guys, let's see. I'm going to take a picture of this. Actually, just to make it easier, I'm going to take a picture of this upside down so you have it. Hold on. You are not going to, as I told you, you're not going to be able to finish this. That's not the point. My ulterior motive, I'm going to remove the spotlight here. And I'm going to